Hey everybody, how's it going? What a day. Pretty killer day full of webinars or streams or whatever you want to call them, but it was just a packed event for Flow. So the day after their token sale went live, well-timed event of speakers from kind of all different areas around blockchain. It was actually a really well-balanced event, like considering it was put on by a team that is definitely trying to promote their token. The content was, really well spread out and kind of directed towards the speakers and their products themselves. So just to get things started, like we are going to cover a few things that might be considered hype or shilling, and so I do just want to kick it off with the fact that nothing that we talk about today is financial advice. By all means, please do your own research into any of the companies, products, and projects that we talk about. With crypto, never invest anything that you are willing or not willing to lose, and yeah, really just be smart about what you're doing with your money and do, thorough research on any of these projects. The space is a lot of fun, but it is very risky, and people have been known to lose quite a bit of money. So I have put the links to like the token sale in the video description. As well as like the Flow Twitter, the Discord channel, and also the full YouTube stream that I'm discussing today. We might show clips of the stream at certain points, but the stream was 5 a.m. Pacific time to 3 p.m. Pacific time, so that's a lot of content to cover, and I'm probably gonna fade out way before then. So just kind of touching base on some of the subjects that were covered during the stream. The first session, it was great, and I'm gonna have to go back and re-watch this one because it was definitely like 5 in the morning and I was waking up and not really quite all there for it. So I did kind of key in on a few things towards the end. The speakers right here, I'm not going to name off any names because I'm going to butcher a bunch of the names on this list, but we had a pretty good speaker list to kick it off with. Animoka Brands, I didn't realize that they were behind the sandbox, so that piqued my interest because they've been a project that I've been low-key hyped on for a while. Haven't actually purchased any lands yet, but I'm quite into the whole idea of land-based NFTs. My hockey game project, I'm going to try to incorporate that idea. I kind of got inspired by that first session this morning with it kind of turned on a few light bulbs for me. So I think that what was I gonna get at here? I'm losing my train of thought. I feel like I've been up way too long today, but I think that whole concept of land-based NFTs is really cool. Like what I kind of recently finally understood was the fact that these aren't just things that you buy and sell in a marketplace. Like these really do have a use case beyond even being like an income stream from a game or like owning stake in a game. So the cool thing that the sandbox is doing is once you own a piece of this land, you can actually build on it. You can build a game on that land, and they actually have like an engine that you can use to build on. So I can't remember what some of the prices I saw land parcels going for in OpenSea were way back in the day, but I'm pretty sure I regret not buying them now, because at this point I have started to purchase land parcels and games that I'm interested in. So yeah, it was really cool seeing Yat be a part of that first session and get to know Animoka a little bit better. I'm really excited about the games that they're building. They're I don't want to say the first wave because it's kind of offensive to some existing game developers. There are some really cool games out there, but they're starting to get more polished and more well-rounded in terms of gaming experiences. So I'm just really pumped to see what they do. And they were part of a recent round of partnerships that Flow just mentioned. So it looks like they're going to be bringing some of their awesome games over to the Flow blockchain, and will be there for Flow's launch, which is incredible. So a few of the takeaways I got out of that first session. Again, I need to go watch it over. I'm missing like a huge one that it was something that Min brought up and Mick kind of elaborated on, and it was just a huge like I got excited when I heard it. But so yeah, I'm gonna have to rewatch that one and actually and echo that out in a later stream. But one of the first things that came out was kind of about empowering a younger generation to learn about finance through gaming, and this was a bit of a recurring theme throughout the event, and I thought that was a really good point. Like, we don't really learn about finances, at least not where I grew up. Like, I grew up on the West Coast in Canada, and from the sound of it, the education up here and in the States is pretty similar. So we don't really get taught a whole lot about finance, or at least we didn't when I was growing up. And so, for kids to be able to play a game like Axie Infinity, and every game really, like whether you're playing PvE or PvP, you at least have a chance at winning some of that small love potions, which are an actual currency that you can trade on Uniswap. So a lot of people really started getting their first taste of dealing with crypto from being onboarded to just a game like Axie Infinity. And that is just a step aside from that, that's really a big part of what Flow and Dapper Labs have been trying to do, is onboard people to blockchain, to this new experience, through fun and games, and something that comes more naturally. Like, you don't have to beg and plead them to share it with their friends. So I mean, it's like this experiential process of getting to know this new technology, and Axie's really kind of leading the way with that right now. You hear these really cool stories of people reaching out to the community in the Philippines, teaching them how to play this game, and then all of a sudden people are able to pay their bills and earn a daily wage, or even better in some cases, from having fun and playing a game that I can attest to, and I might even play in a little bit. Is a really fun experience. It brings together a lot of elements of other games that I've played that I just really enjoy. So for kids to be able to access something like that and really start getting their first experience with owning assets, trading, lending, borrowing, and cryptocurrency in general, it's pretty cool, right? Because by the time that they're really starting to play with big money and things that matter, they already have this real world experience, and that's a lot more than I can say. Growing up, I was part of the trial by fire right after the big bull run, where I lost my shirt almost. Again, going back, I didn't put anything in that I couldn't afford to lose, but I lost a lot of it really early on because I bought into the hype at the worst possible time, and I had to learn how to trade by doing it. And it wasn't until this year really that I found some decent resources, and kind of cut through all the BS and the hype, and found some people that were just genuinely sharing information to help other people succeed, or at least lose less, right? So anyway, that was a rabbit hole, but I think it's pretty cool that kids can get this genuine and wholesome kind of experience, learning about these, like, not only finance, but these cool new things that many of us are sure are going to be a big part of the future, through this cool new gaming experience that's really only possible through blockchain. So another cool point that came up, and this was something that Min touched on, but I don't think I'm going to do it justice, and this is, I think, where where Min and Mick had like a good back and forth, was about tokenizing rare digital or rare original art. So you're seeing a lot of, you know, awesome digital art being tokenized in NFTs and sold, and you know, there's some really cool advantages there for artists, in terms of like royalties. I mean, the hype in general right now is great, but having real scarcity on a digital asset and then being able to be paid royalties every time that asset changes hands, that's quite a paradigm shift for artists these days. You know, it's almost morbid to say, and it came up during the discussion, but in a lot of cases, for not just visual artists, but you know, musical, like musicians and all sorts of people in a creative field, their content becomes like way more valuable after they pass away. And that's not really fair to the artist, right? Like, it might be fair to their family because they inherit an estate or something like that, but the fact that the artist doesn't really get to enjoy the fruits of their own labor until they're, you know, deceased is really a bummer and a deterrent for pursuing that type of career path or lifestyle. So the fact that you can put out content like in a new way, it's provably scarce. It's you know, you can do things with this, and I think this is what people are just starting to cue into is we kind of have these virtual worlds, and like the current situation that's keeping everyone inside is really ramping this up quickly. But we have these virtual worlds where you can purchase land, you can put on a VR headset, jump into this world, go tour around, look at everybody else's land, see what they've built, walk inside, and then they have, you know, digital art hanging on their walls. And you can only do that if you own a digital art NFT, right? Or something that unlocks the ability to hang that digital art on your wall. So that's a really cool thing to be able to do already with digital art in the first place. And there are some digital artists that you can already see, just because they created something, there's already a buzz around that. Like, they've already created a following, and you're gonna see some really high profile digital artists that got their start from the cryptocurrency space. So very cool. But the concept that Min brought up that was awesome, and this is the one that I want to go back and really kind of listen to again, was about the tokenizing of rare original art. So like the Mona Lisa, or you know, something really well known, and there is only one original version of that, but if you tokenize it and make it so that everyone can own a share of that piece, that would be kind of special, right? And then in that case, you know, you can do a ton of things with that token. But for example, just going back to that virtual world where you're hanging things on your wall, well, if you own a share of the Mona Lisa, well, then you'll unlock the ability to share like a version of that token, or hang that on your digital wall. And what's so cool about that in a time where you can't really have large meetings and gatherings is you're starting to see large companies, entertainment companies, and anyone who's really, you know, right up to date with what's going on in crypto and in these digital worlds, they're starting to warm up to the idea of having virtual meetups. So if you're going to host meetings in your office and you have a Mona Lisa hanging on your wall, that's pretty badass. So I thought that was a really good idea. I didn't really think about it that way in terms of like existing art. I did think about like connecting art, but I didn't really think about how huge like tokenizing existing rare art pieces by, you know, historically famous artists would be. My late stepmom, she did like a 6-month student leave in Italy, where she actually got to go through like the Medici hallways and go into some places that not a lot of people get to go. And she said it was just incredible to actually get to look at the originals, because it was just so much more special for her as an artist to see the actual brushstrokes that were painted by that actual artist all the way back when they created the piece. So there's just something super special. It really resonates with the whole NFT concept. You're really selling the intangibles with an NFT. Like that's what you're buying and selling in a lot of cases, is not just a product or a thing, but you're selling like an experience and a feeling, and sentiments and things that are attached to ownership, and even a history of those things. So maybe somebody really important or really high profile, or just really special to you personally owned that thing before. Well, that increases the value for you, and it just creates more of a connection between like real life objects, things, and sentiments and these digital assets. So just a really cool way to kick it all off. And then one of the other things that was kind of just came up, and it was an exciting thing to think about, because I think we can all see it coming at this point. It's AAA game studios are definitely starting to work with blockchain. So I mean, Ubisoft has a partnership of sorts with Dapper, and so I mean they've been, I don't know any more than the fact that they've been playing with the technology and seeing where it fits. But I just think it's really cool and exciting to see that. There's so much, like, we've just been inundated with microtransactions in the gaming industry. Like, anybody that plays it, or anybody that plays games, beyond buying just a base version of a game and playing it from start to finish without enhancing it in any way with downloadable content, like, I don't even know if that's possible anymore. Game companies seem to release part of the product for what used to be the full price, and then kind of rake you over the coals with the like downloadable content and microtransactions. And it seems to be worse for like the games that are like targeting a younger demographic, because it's easier to sell an item to a kid who just needs to beg his parents relentlessly for their credit card than it is to get somebody who's worked a full day to pay for that thing. So I mean, one of the things that's really cool about the new type of games that are being built in the NFT space and in blockchain, is the fact that the game developers, at least right now, are putting the user first. So it seems like they've had the genius recognition that, hey, like if we're actually able to build our games in a way where like the user makes money, then the user can come back and enjoy the game more, and you get this infinite cycle of happy feelings and re-engagement. And again, it's really easy to tell your friend about a great experience that you're having, and tell them that they should try it too, when it's an authentic thing like a game, and you're having fun and you're making money, and there's really nothing bad to say about it, right? So I mean, there's a way to have a win-win in this case, and I think we're starting to see it with games like Axie, and a couple other ones were mentioned, but I think Axie is definitely leading the race right now in terms of play to earn. So other than that, like, that was actually a pretty jam-packed session with a lot of great points. So I'll have to run through that one again. Like, I'm gonna go through each of them probably 3 times, because I am building my hockey game, and there's so much value in just hearing somebody else's point of view in this space. Like, it's almost like you get like another light bulb comes on every other minute, because you're just hearing a great new suggestion, or you're hearing somebody with a completely different perspective kind of shed a light that you never would have even considered. So Yeah, it's a lot of fun, you know, tuning into some of these discussions because it's just non-stop inspiration. It was a decked day. Like, I mean, my brain was full by the end of it, so I had to kind of go from memory for some of my notes. So the second session was Roham, the CEO of Dapper. He jumped in and basically just gave us a nice welcome, kind of summarized what was going on, and you know, shouted out the current events, which I kind of mentioned before we got started. But you know, awesome guy. It was nice to see him before the ceremonies kicked off, and then we jumped into developing Web3 protocols, which is a really cool discussion. So try not to like zoom through this too much, but it's hard when it's just me, so I'll chill a little bit. But this is cool because, you know, going back again, like, it's easy to relate everything to kind of a project that I'm planning and building right now. So for me, the hockey game started out as just a game, like a GM management game. I'm a big fan of, well, I mean, like, there's one hockey game to play right now, especially if you're on a console. So it's made by a local company, and it is the prime example of one of those transaction hell games where you're just, you know, it's made to make you spend money, at least the version of it that I like to play. And if we're being honest, like, the version of it that I want to make doesn't exist at all yet. Like, you're not able to do, like, I'm taking two concepts. So there's franchise mode, which is where you're like a GM of a hockey team, and you're just, at least the way I play it, you don't actually play the games, you just build the team and manage the team, and you watch the games, or you let them auto sim or whatever. But like, I like that whole kind of set it up and let it happen, and just see how well you've assembled your little crew. So one of the games that's doing a really great job of that right now is Foot Battle. I have the power, so I'll just pop in there. I even have a team, so let's do it. Yes, I am in Canada. Living the Canadian dream. Except for my team is no longer in the NHL playoffs. Thanks, Alan's team. Alright. Woo. So this is really cool. Like, it's soccer or footy. But it is like, you know, like an early version of exactly the game I have in mind, for, you know, like the basics of it, at least, where it's you're assembling a team. So each of these players, see, I got the WC Buttes here. I'm winning stuff. Life's just going. So each of these players is an NFT. Well, it is if I want it to be. And so you can actually go trade these on OpenSea. You can see that this fellow is listed for an arm and a leg. But they all have like their own traits and like stats, and like, I just love this, right? Because this is exactly what I want the hockey game that I'm playing on console to be. You open packs of cards. They're NHL players, which is a bonus, and I'd have to figure that part out. You kind of need the rights to use that, but we could get there. These aren't real pro players, but these are just auto-generated NFT players. They have various skill levels. One moment. And you can build a team out of various NFTs that you assemble, and then this team like plays hold up. Plays part of a regular season, so just automatically. Let's see. Where am I? Oh, I didn't qualify probably. Oh no. What's going on? Maybe I didn't qualify for national because I'm gonna admit I haven't played this in a long time. National League. I don't know. Alright, maybe this has changed a little bit more than I thought, but so there are these cups that you can play. So like, just for example, I'll just throw my team in this cup and it schedules these games. So now that I'm in this cup, everything's automated and scheduled. So my team's gonna go rip it like the legends they are, and they're probably just gonna slaughter the first couple of games. But you know, I know how to pick them. So see how she goes. It's getting a little dark in here too. So let's see if that helps a bit. So that's showing me what I'm up against. I'm probably not going to slaughter. I'm not going to lie. The team looks a lot better than mine. So, but it's all automated and I mean, very simple. But I just think this is so cool. Like, I love this stuff. You pit two AI teams together and it all just comes down to who's built the better team. You know, you actually pick strategies in this game, so it's not just based on oh boy Ben. That's not just based on like how, you know, how good the cards are that are in your squad. You still have to pick like, you know, formations and strategies, and there is still a little bit of skill in terms of like how you set your team up. But you know, really cool stuff. And like, I love these sports management games, and I'd like to like, I just think there's so much opportunity here, just to have a lot of fun with blockchain in general. Like, you know, now you can think of things like player drafts. You can think of like, obviously there's teams, there's players. You can find a way to involve coaches as NFTs. You can get into land-based stuff with like either arenas or whatever. Like, there's just so much room to grow. So what started as like going back to my hockey game idea, really, you know, I was playing my console game thinking, man, this is just like, this just has to come to blockchain, and it has to come to blockchain in a way that's putting the players first, like putting the user first. And so right after that, I saw this and I was like, yes, like, thank you. Like, I don't know how everyone's gonna enjoy the hands-off aspect of the game, and maybe somebody will extend it. Like, I want to build it, and this kind of leads on to the second part, is what was originally just going to be a game is now probably better off being a protocol. And I mean, it can just kind of get more and more abstract and grow from there, to the point where, like, should it just be a hockey game now, or should it be kind of like a sports metaverse where, you know, all sports are welcome, and, you know, it's just kind of like basically turns into like one of the like the leisure center or something like that for digital athletes. But anyway, so before I spiral into too big of a rabbit hole and get way too distracted by my little dudes playing footy here, I just think this is super cool. Like, I love it. I love having like an actual like example that I can go play that's so close. Like, it's not my sport, but it's like cool enough that it might as well be. And it has so many elements of the thing that I'm trying to build already that it's awesome that something like this exists. And they are part of the Dapper family in a way. They've integrated the wallet, and I've seen some shout outs and stuff in some of the content. So pretty cool. Nice to see what they're building. And this is, you know, just a really cool little ecosystem in itself. They have like their own marketplace where they have I'm not sure if this is, I'm sure it's actually, I am pretty sure this is like OpenSea SDK. But you can see they have varying rarities of cards. So some mythics are pretty pricey, especially that one. Hartman, you beauty with the lowest overall. Yeah, lowest overall, but most expensive by a mile. I love people's pricing. And then, yeah, sorry, so this is cool. So you get like their little currency in game, which I haven't actually seen on a marketplace. And maybe it's on Uniswap now, but it's cool. You can draft players with the currency, right? So you can actually pull these new players. I think they expire, so they recycle if nobody picks them. There's various tiers, so obviously the higher tier players are more expensive with your in-game currency. But just cool. I love this, like, because again, it's giving me ideas for like how do I want to set up a player draft. It's a super important part of a sports game. So they've got this concept here. I would really like to. I want to make mine a little bit more true to how sports works. So I think having like a draft lottery system, which reads your on-chain results from your last season and allows everybody to pick in a certain order. That would be the way that I'd like it to go, because then it really does give the lower ranked teams a chance to upgrade and work their way up. Because I just don't want to build a game where all you're doing is rewarding the people who are balling out and buying the biggest team. Like, if you want to win money, or if you want to spend money to win every game out of the gate, like, okay, but it's not really about that. This is about building a team. So I think it makes more sense to reward the players that are working harder for it and actually playing the game it's meant to be played. So that's going to be a fun one. There's a lot of game design to be considered, and I have no game design experience, so hopefully I build something that's worth everyone's time. But I think one of the other recurring themes that I keep hearing when VCs are talking is like the founders and the builders that are actually building something to solve a pain point that they've experienced or are experiencing themselves are the ones that really seem to get people excited. Because it's almost like I'm totally building this game for the world, but I'm honestly just building it because I want to play it and I want it to exist. And if somebody else did it, great, right? But I want to make sure it happens. And those are the people that are going to stay up all night working on something and fuss over details to make sure that they get it right, and take a lot of pride, not only in the end result, but in kind of the process itself, and engaging with the community and like getting feedback along the way. So you can definitely see it in some of the more successful projects in crypto already. All right, so that was a rabbit hole. So yeah, anyway, I think I almost got to the point there too. The where I was going with that was kind of under the topic of the next session. So instead of building like a game per se, I'm considering building more of a protocol, and like or trying to think of a way to turn this game concept into more of a protocol that other people can leverage and extend. So that's where that whole kind of metaverse concept comes in. And just going back to that concept, maybe not everybody wants to just watch their team play. Maybe they actually want to create a game where they can engage with their players and actually physically move them or digitally move them around. So there we go. Segue into section 3, which was developing web protocols. So this was really cool. We had COO of Aave, we had the co-founder at 3box, and then we had Mickey Marr of Dapper Labs, and they were just kind of shooting the stuff around DeFi, NFTs, and build like the protocols that support them. And so I mean, there's some really cool concepts. The first one on my list, I can't remember now if it actually came up in this session or if it was something that Roham said that I just kind of accidentally placed in here, but I think Mickey and Roham both touched on it, and it was they pointed out something that I didn't even really think about before, but a lot of projects in this space, I think, it's inspired by Ethereum. Like, Ethereum built this really cool thing that, like the ability to build these distributed apps or decentralized apps, and have a currency that really has a lot of utility out of the gate. Like the minute Ether became a thing, and smart contracts became deployable, Ether had a use case, because you needed to spend Ether to deploy your smart contract. So even in the earliest days, when people were building their first apps, the minute they wanted to deploy that on mainnet, ETH had a use case. You had to spend ETH. And then to use these apps, you'd either have to spend ETH directly, or you would have to buy like the app currency, like so the native ERC20 token or whatever they call it before the standard was approved and in existence. But you'd have to spend that ETH in order to get that other currency. So like what started happening in the markets is ETH would dip and then immediately get bought back up, and like you just see this, like it became like the safest currency to trade like early on in periods of volatility, because as long as you waited for a big enough correction, you could be pretty confident that the price was going to come back up and at least help you break even at a certain point. So there was obviously risk, but like it felt safer than Bitcoin did at the time, because the fact that people were warming up to the fact that it had utility. So people were buying it to use it as opposed to buying it to speculate on it. And that's ramped up, insanely at this point. Like when you look back at the last few months and the last, hype wave of DeFi, let's not open that, but let's look at a chart. So yeah, you look at the last couple of months, right? Like this is pretty much the start of the DeFi hype wave. Like that was like everybody started buying into these crazy food tokens, and things just started blowing up, and like the ETH transaction fees went through the roof. You're almost paying like the amount of your transaction, like for the value of whatever you're buying or selling, you're almost paying that value in transaction fees on top. So like you can see that there's a huge demand for the currency. Every time it takes a big blast down, it still usually has a pretty good correction because people are buying it to use it, and every time they see it at a lower price than it was before, they go for it. So pretty interesting project. And what ended up happening there is like, so around the time like CryptoKitties came out, people understood that, hey, like there's like a cap to the scalability of this network. Like all of a sudden, the transaction fees started to go way up, and so because of the excitement and rush to own CryptoKitties, these fees hit such a point where Dapper basically broke the internet. So like all of these new smart contract projects realize that, hey, ETH can't scale, right? Like Ethereum's flawed, right? Like everybody thinks that they're not going to get around it, and I mean honestly they will. There's a lot of smart people working on the project. There's ETH2 is in testnet right now, and you know, it'll be a while before they iron out all the issues and it's safe to use. But I mean, it's in crypto years, it's probably going to be a long time, but in human years, it's probably going to be, you know, within the next year or two that we see things starting to migrate over. But even in the meantime, like, you're seeing layer 2 solutions, which are just basically acknowledging the fact that Ethereum wasn't really built to handle the amount of transactions that it's being, you know, asked to at this point. So we're paying such a premium to use a chain that really another chain could kind of work over top of, which are called layer 2 solutions, and that could be a faster, more agile, less painful way for us to transact. And then that layer 2 solution can be responsible for interacting with the actual Ethereum chain. So hopefully, like, when we look at the gas station, which right now you can practically drink the gas. Please don't drink gasoline. That's not advisable. You'll get poisoned. But right now you can you know, kind of transact at will. Like, this is a really good gas price. So I don't know what's going on, if certain countries are asleep, or if people are just maybe taking a little bit of a time out. But the network, I've seen, you know, gas prices anywhere from, you know, 120 to you know, 500 Gwei when the Uni token was airdropped. So 57, get your trades on right now. But you look at the leaderboard for you know, the highest gas users, and Uniswap V2 is on it. Tether, which just announced, I believe, that they're going to be working with a Misa Go, which is a layer 2 solution designed to speed these things up. So if Tether actually moves off of the layer 1 and onto a layer 2 solution, then that's going to put a massive, you know, it's going to really hopefully bring these gas fees down, especially if Uniswap. I know that they're working on, sorry, let me just exit the frog in my throat. I think Uniswap is just working on their version 3 right now, and I know that they've mentioned that it is going to have a dramatic effect on gas prices, but I haven't heard anything specifically about like a layer 2 solution being used, so I'm curious to what they're gonna do there. Anyway, so where all this is coming from is my first point on the third session, which is the fact that Flow is actually launching with users and activity in mind before, you know, like, their chain is definitely focused on scalability and high throughput and low transaction fees, but where a lot of other projects, like post Ethereum projects, are focusing on scalability and speed first, they're kind of forgetting about the users. Like, it's, you kind of have to have a reason to scale, right? Like, if you just have a chain that scales and nobody uses it, then do you even have a chain? So, I mean, what's really cool is you're actually seeing, you know, like, big partnerships like the NBA. Again, I don't know if Ubisoft is building anything, but even the fact that they have a relationship there is cool. That's a AAA developer. So, see if I'm getting serenaded by the cat. So, I mean, like, it's really cool to see that they're getting these big time relationships going on, and you're getting some real you know, high end product right out of the gate with Flow on launch day. And I thought that was a really good point. Like, I didn't even think about it, but like, Flow and the community, it's just kind of organically building and shaping up to be a place where things are already happening. And I mean, I always thought it was really impressive that NBA Top Shot is having the type of success it's having, and it's not even in open beta yet. Soon, but not yet. So, you know, it's that was a really good point. I think they hit it on the head right there, and I think that's going to be a really really important point for the success of this project, and maybe for how it competes with some of the other projects in the space that people are excited about. Because developers definitely want to go where the people are. They want to build apps where they're, you know, they want people to come through the door. They don't just want to build something that nobody uses or nobody sees, right? It's very important to actually have users, and in the world of games especially, you need a lot of users. You need hundreds of thousands, millions of users to actually, be a part of the leaders of the pack. So very cool stuff. I won't beat that concept to death because I have probably spent like 15 minutes on it. But the other thing that I thought was really cool is like the way Flow is designed. It actually, the gas fees are supposed to be cheap enough that it really does allow the developers to pay gas on behalf of their users. And so a big theme of like this whole summit today, and a big focus for Flow and Dapper Labs in general, is about making it as easy as possible for users to be onboarded, right? Like, I want to be able to show this to my grandma or my parents or my buddy's 5-year-old kid, and the experience should be like just as seamless as the current mobile gaming experience, right? Like there really shouldn't be a difference there. You shouldn't feel uncomfortable and like you're in this new world and like you need to hold somebody's hand through your first 6 or 7 transactions in order to feel comfortable. So I think like Dapper was doing a really good job of that with like CryptoKitties and some of their Dapper wallet partners before gas got ridiculously expensive in that latest DeFi push. So they were actually doing that, and a lot of other providers I believe were as well, where they were paying the gas fees for at least their products on behalf of their users, and that allowed users, myself being one of them, who like we don't have deep pockets. Like we didn't pay enough attention when these things were cheap, and or we were too skeptical at the time, and so we weren't fortunate enough to be walking around with bags of ETH. So it really helped us out to be able to start using these products and buy a few kitties off OpenSea and get into the breeding experience without having to pay a few bucks out of a balance where we maybe only have $5 or $10 at a time. So like even now, like trying to trade in the like Uniswap marketplace or even add and remove liquidity, it's pretty expensive, and like I still don't like I was super late to that whole scene. Like DeFi, I personally just got into it like within the last month. I didn't even get the Uniswap drop, right? So like I don't have bags, and the small bags I have are pretty much just sitting still until I can trade up some ETH on Binance or something and send it to the wallet so that I can actually stack up a bit and afford the transaction fees. But I pretty much just trade in DeFi for fun, to see if maybe I strike oil once or twice. But it would be a huge deal, getting back to the main point, to either use DeFi products, trade NFTs, do anything on a chain where the developers are encouraged and definitely do pay gas on the user's behalf. It's just such a fundamental difference between playing games on the regular. Like, could you imagine like every time you want to do something on your PlayStation or your Xbox, like you have to pay, and like in some cases like $5 to $10. Like, oh, you want to like breed like a creature in a game, you want to make these 2 creatures mate and then create a new creature out of that you can then use for the rest of the game. Yeah, no problem. It's just gonna cost you $20. Like, man, some people don't make $20 in an hour. So do I want to spend over an hour's worth of hard work and effort in order to make these 2 digital creatures breed? I don't know. So yeah, hopefully the devs out there pay their users gas fees, because that's definitely something I'm going to do with the hockey game. There's, you know, I would much rather my users have a great experience and be out a few cents. And it'll just be, you know, I want the users to be comfortable. I don't want my users to have to, you know, research blockchain and understand gas and have to, you know, deal with different gas rates and understand, you know, the different speeds that the transaction are gonna, like, come on, man. Like I said, my grandma should be able to play this. She's not a hockey fan at all, but she will be when she sees my game. So collaboration and value creation becomes really necessary for devs to stay relevant, and I love this point. Like, oh my goodness, like that's kind of the first thing that I saw about like the whole NFT community was like, wow, these people are so pro collaboration and so interested in what each other are building and like so supportive of one another. And that's something that, like, I mean, it dates back to the console wars, and like you think Nintendo versus Sega, right? Like, that was a genius marketing campaign at the time, but it is so the opposite of this new industry. And you know, like, you don't need to take digs at another developer. You know, Axie Infinity and CryptoKitties, they're not even really trying to do the same thing. And they get along peacefully. Like, the two companies were just hanging out on the same event today. Cool, right? Like, I love it. They're both super supportive of what each other are building. You know, the guy representing Axie today, he shouted out CryptoKitties as a source of inspiration for all of this. That's what got him started, right? And you know, what's really cool about that is that we're talking about something that's like kind of 2 years old, inspiring something that's less than 2 years old and taking off. Like, you know, it's hot fire right now, so it's pretty cool. That was really awesome to see. So I just love that. I think in terms of like the gaming industry, and in terms of just kind of like old business versus new business, like the fact that like working together and adding value to your users is going to be the kind of thing that makes you and keeps you relevant and brings you success. You're no longer able to trap your users into kind of a, yeah, but you invested $5,000 into this, so now you're screwed kind of like business model. Like, it's you know, people can cash out, they can get a return on their investment, hopefully, and move on to another ecosystem if they don't like what you've created. And so using that, like, you know, you need to kind of stay relevant in a couple of ways. You know, the first one obviously being, well, your game or your experience needs to be fresh, needs to be exciting, and needs to add value regularly enough to bring people back. And then on the other side of that is, you know, in order to kind of keep your name prominent and out there, it encourages you to work with other developers who are either up and coming or established, and kind of share markets and share audiences and expose people to new experiences that they may not otherwise be. So it really just it supercharges the whole industry, and I think that's great. And by doing that, again, kind of like Roham mentioned something about like making you know, the more established heavyweights play by the new rules. And I think if the new developers stay true to that whole collaborative, like putting the users first and creating kind of a win-win business model, man, that's going to be so powerful, because the amount of experiences like that out there are going to take all the value out of a, you know, commercialized AAA game that's really built for a greedy developer that doesn't want to, you know, that wants to take the money out of their users' pocket and keep it all for themselves, like that type of thing, right? Like, it's, you know, it's awesome. So I think, yeah, without dragging on too long there, just, you know, the amount of developers coming out and working together to create these like kind of wholesome, everybody wins solutions, if done properly, that should be enough to push the big the big old style like game developers out, or at least force them to adapt and play by those new rules. And then the other interesting point that came up during that discussion was that, like, in this kind of place, like, everything can be monetized in a certain way, right? Like, and that's not in like a greedy sense, but like this spins microtransactions into a positive way where creatives of all sorts can actually get a fair compensation. And I mean, this is something that I really want to spend some time on, like wrapping my head around in a better way, either myself or with the Flow team and with some other devs, because I still want to find like a like guaranteed awesome surefire way that the developer or the creator gets paid for their piece, right? Like, it doesn't have to be insane. It can be, you know, 2 cents or fractions of a cent, because we're dealing with digital currency. But I think it's just so important for a developer to be able to afford the time to continue to create, right? Like, that, if I can think of everything wrong with, you know, the way I've done business up until now, it's the fact that I've, you know, sold all of the most valuable time that I have, and when it comes time to actually doing, you know, projects for me, or just like the creative outlet things, it's just not, it's not what it could be, right? And I think if you find a way to frame things up where you're working on what you are the most passionate about, and that's paying your bills and allowing you to not only create more but learn and really just dig into that and become that, that's in a nutshell what I feel like this industry is starting to be able to do, right? It is empowering people to be able to make a living doing what they're most passionate about, right? Or at least what they're best at. And so, you know, hopefully we build things in a way where they're getting paid fairly to do that. Jules, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. Did you catch any of this summit today, or was it all during bedtime? Well, I will let Jules get back to me. Yeah, so yeah, like that was in a nutshell like the main points of the 3.0 protocols talk, and I thought it was really cool. Like, it was, again, like super inspiring, kind of flip some things around for me, or flip my perspective around on a few things, and kind of open my eyes to a few new things. And, you know, again, as somebody that's trying to build a few projects in the space, I just thought it was great and you know, insanely inspiring. Yeah, some of it, eh? Any highlights for you? Did you catch the earlier sessions, like sessions 1 to 3 or so? Let's go see how my football team is doing. Oh, crushing it. That's probably where I'm gonna get smoked. I don't know, last time I won the whole tournament, but we'll see. Take a little breather, chat with Jules for a little bit. Ooh, when your tea becomes iced tea and you weren't quite expecting it. No rush, buddy. There's zero pace on this stream. I'm just hanging out. Feels good to be doing one that's like kind of just open format, relax, no pressure to like actually hit every point on a tutorial. somebody's actually talking, so we get some two-way conversation. Thank you for being awake right now, bro. Yeah, curious to know which ones he caught though. I'm so excited to be able to talk about this with someone and watch my team just rip it up against Budapest. This, my friend, is a free game that you can play. Nice. Cool, so you saw the panel with Roham? The other nice thing about Foot Battle is when you're streaming and having a conversation with someone, you can just have a game on the screen, and it's like cheating. Cool. Yeah, that's a good one. That was the segue. That's where I'm headed next. And basically my big takeaway from that one is that the NFTs are like the gateway drug for a wider audience into crypto. That was my massive takeaway from that session. Dude, this game is so fun. Like, I mean, obviously, like, for somebody who's trying to basically build this for hockey, like, it's next level. Like, I just love the fact that, like, the coolest thing about this is you can kind of just tune in and watch like anyone's games. You can't see what I'm clicking on, but there's like a share link that you can use, and it even has a referral link automatically, so if someone wants to like spend money on the game, you'll actually get a kickback. So super cool. I love this, dude. Like, it's so, like, I don't even want to say grassroots, because like you can tell like it's early, but like the fact that this is playing like actual football with strategy, man, I love it. It's badass. But yeah, like, this is such a huge inspiration for the hockey game I want to build, and it's pretty smooth. Like, you can play this one for free. Like, if you have Dapper or MetaMask, you can just basically pop on, create an account, and you don't actually mint any NFTs until you tell it to. Like, you have to export it to the blockchain. So I don't even think there's like a gas fee for signing up. You just have to send a signature using your wallet, and off you go. It auto generates your initial team, and then you can challenge me to a duel. Cause I don't have any other buddies that play this game, so it'd be fun to square off with somebody's team. Yeah. So anyway, like the fourth session, that's the one that we're talking about with Roham, the CEO of Dapper. Just make sure I nail everybody who's in there. Moderated by June. Yeah, with Sergey and Jamie. So Sergey from Chainlink, Jamie from Outlier Ventures. This one, did you catch when Jamie shouted out that they're definitely interested in DeFi and NFT projects right now? Julian, did you catch that? Because this was a great talk. I think I honestly just all three of my points start with NFTs are, so I think I need to watch this one again. Yeah, definitely check that out, Julian, because it was pretty cool. I thought of you right away, because he would probably love to hear about what you're building. Orbital sounds like right in his wheelhouse. Oh, what Jamie's offer is only applicable in Europe? Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, you're not doing bad in terms of being hooked up with good people right now, so I'm sure. I was just thinking of you as soon as you said that. It was just like instant light bulb goes on. Think of Jules.
And now that you're here, it's just so convenient to tell you about it. But yeah, that was a good chat. Like, it was like, what I won't do enough justice on, and I'm gonna need to go back and watch again, is like Sergey really gave an awesome like in-depth kind of review of what Chainlink actually does, and the way he said it was just like, it made sense of so many things that I have since forgotten, unfortunately, and will now have to re-listen to. But it was super interesting to think about at the time, again, in relation to like the projects that I've been working on, and just like what you can do now, like with NFTs, and kind of how that, like, how it's starting to like expand the scope of what an NFT is. Like, I think when in the earlier days, like the CryptoKitties days and like, you know, CryptoPunks and collectibles and stuff like that, everybody was like kind of just, you know, everybody kind of typecast them as this, you know, digital Beanie Baby thing, right? And so you get like these different ways to make these things communicate, right? And like that's what Chainlink really does, is it like not only can different contracts communicate with each other from different chains, but you can actually communicate from a chain to the outside world and back to the chain and start pulling weather data or start pulling like real life data. So in my case, like that would link pretty nicely to the hockey stats and data. But like, you can all of a sudden like do things with this NFT, and like I don't want to call it a data type because it's more than that, but it is like a digital asset type in its own. And one of the interesting things that Rohan mentioned was like that, like we think about like the fungible tokens is like a primary asset and like NFTs are kind of secondary, but in reality, like he thinks that down the road in like 5 to 10 years, like we'll be talking about NFTs as the primary asset and fungible tokens would be secondary. And I thought that was a really interesting point, because like that's so bang on, right? Like it's almost like NFTs are like this super type, right? Like it's like everything else is like this subclass of an NFT or like a limited version of it or something like that. And it really, like, if you think about it, like it really makes you rethink what an NFT actually is, right? Like, you know, if it's just a non-fungible thing that you can pack full of whatever data and features that you want, right? So it really takes limitations. If you kind of burn the idea of a digital Beanie Baby and you really start thinking about what you can do with it. Like there was a lot of talk about like these NFTs really being the foundation of a lot of dApps moving forwards. Yeah, exactly, right? Like fungible, that's exactly what they said. Like fungible is more specific than non-fungible. Non-fungible, like it came up a couple times, it doesn't really mean anything. Like non-fungible is just the way to describe a token that isn't fungible, right? Like that, a token that isn't interchangeable with the other ones. So that was a really, like that was, I think that almost commandeered the entire section for me, because I just went off into like, yeah, land. So pretty much nailed all the points from that session that I had written down, but I didn't do it justice at all. Like I think Jamie and Sergey both had a couple of more like relevant, non-financial token, but I don't even think that covers it, man, because like NFT and DeFi, like they're merging right before our eyes. Like you look at Avagachi and you look at like even Axie Infinity and like all these, like Meme, you look at Uni and their socks thing, like everything seems to be kind of coming together. And I think that's where this thing's really gonna ramp up and hit a completely new level. Is, you know, these have all been almost in their own kind of like buckets for a while, and you're really just starting to see collaboration across these little subsets, right? Pretty cool. Yeah, like NFT or fungible tokens are, I mean, I think I don't think it does them justice to say that they'd be like secondary or like a second class thing, because like there's some really cool stuff that you can do with fungible tokens, right? Like think about Based, right? Like that's probably like one of the most interesting projects in the space right now, and it's just built off of, you know, the token itself is fungible, but how that token works is completely different. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So session 5, I totally didn't take enough notes to do justice. It was about digital marketplaces, and I was hanging out with everybody in the chat, and we were totally distracted about virtual like VR marketplaces. Like somebody brought up Decentraland, and I just went again off into La La Land. So that was where a lot of people were talking about, you know, digital meeting places and kind of how that's ramping up. There were some really interesting questions being thrown out in chat at that time too, so I have to go back through that one because I honestly can't remember it. And it, like, that was Alan's session, and Alan is like becoming one of my favorite people on the planet. So I want to be able to kind of like actually give it my undivided attention. But yeah, I just don't think I can do it justice. There's a lot of cool talk, and there was a lot, like, again, like they themselves were talking about like the potential for like having a VR marketplace, like, so take OpenSea, but an OpenSea that you can actually walk around, right, like Minority Report style, and make purchases. And again, like a lot of conversation about like the metaverse and you know, tokens that can kind of travel from one ecosystem to another, which is super exciting. Like Ready Player One came up in chat, and that is such a good example of what we're trying to build. Like I'm so pumped about the idea that, you know, somebody's knight in shining armor or whatever, their avatar that they created in some other ecosystem, can come into my game, pick up a hockey bag, right? So you'll have to purchase a hockey bag in order to roll your basic stats. But after you've done that, now that's a hockey player. Now your player can start, you know, getting XP as a hockey player and leveling up their stats and working their way up the ladder. So I just think that's a really cool concept. I'm really excited to see what people do with it, because it's so bang on, like, inspired by that. So, and like there are, I didn't even honestly realize it because I live under a rock, but there are a lot of companies kind of in the walled garden space that are apparently trying to build a metaverse. I guess Facebook's taking a crack at it and stuff like that. But a metaverse isn't an exclusive environment. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. If you have a metaverse that doesn't incorporate ecosystems outside of your company's scope, you don't have a metaverse. So I think this is gonna slay, because it's, you know, creating these open worlds that players' assets can kind of travel in and out of while maintaining the state from that previous world. Yeah, I saw, what is it, Flower Patch? Yeah. This is a fun one in the scented flower space. Whoa. That's cool. Let's go check it out. Yeah, these games are fun. There's not much you can do in any of these games right now though, because like they're just like the fees are so much, right? Another win for the brew house. Did I win the tournament? Did I break it? Yeah, I did. I think we need a
I think we need a higher tier for tournaments, or I guess I could just stop being such a coward and... Oh, there is one. Never mind. I'm just farming it. Yeah, no, I saw a flower patch. Kind of like, I can't remember like when my last big, like I'm pretty sure it was like almost this time last year when I like did a big push around kind of the current heavyweights in the blockchain game industry. So I caught when Flower Patch actually sent, they just airdropped a couple of their NFTs into my account. So that's how I really found out about the game. I went, okay, might as well plant one. But by the time I had two, like you need two strains in order to actually like, it's like a breeding game, right? Like you have to have two plants and then you can breed them and come up with a new mix or blend of the two. And so by the time I had a second one, because they airdropped one into two separate accounts, so I transferred it over, but it's not a Dapper partner, or at least it wasn't covered under the transaction or the Dapper Pass. So that's the wallet that it's living in. And by the time that, you know, I was actually going to use it to try to breed a new strain or whatever, the gas fees were like insane. Like Dapper wallet uses a different transaction pass system than MetaMask does, so I didn't actually see what that would have cost me, but I'm pretty sure it was like something ridiculous, like 25 or something more bucks just to breed a strain in a digital smelly plants game. So yeah, not a lot of fun playing Ethereum games right now if they're not on layer 2 solutions or you don't have pockets full of cash. Yeah, so just touching back on like the marketplaces, I totally like won't be able to do this one justice. I got to go back and watch this one. We might like spend a little bit of time on that one, where I might just kind of recap it on a later stream. The highlight really was for me was talking about the like just dreaming up the concept of a virtual reality marketplace and actually like just walking around and seeing things, because like another thing that we were talking about in chat, like I love NFTs, but like don't get me wrong, there's still something special about ripping open a pack of Magic, like the Gathering cards, right? Like there's a smell, right? So I made a wisecrack about scratch and sniff NFTs, but there's a smell to the cards. Like there's that new card smell. It kind of almost smells like the inside of a comic shop, and I'm pretty sure that was not that bad of a smell if you're in the right comic shops. And like, you know, it's just there's that hype, right? Like you get that excitement out of the digital packs too, but like there's just a novelty that you get out of doing something like that in real life. So I think a good middle ground to like that tangible experience would be doing it in VR. Like I doubt you won't get the full sensory. We're not in full 4D, but I think we're gonna have to settle with 3D for a while, and I think we'll be okay with that. To be honest, I think we'll be just fine with that. But yeah, like just the concept of doing it in VR, I think would just add a little bit more of a tangible experience for people. And I think for some people that need that, like it'll actually bring more of a retail experience back to e-commerce shopping too, I think. And you know, like I don't know if you might be able to, yeah, I guess you'll be able to try things on, depending on how honest you are about like your avatar matching your figure. But I think, you know, it'll just, especially as like we get less and less sure about, you know, what's the world gonna look like in 5 years, what's shopping gonna look like in 5 years when you're buying clothes, like, you know, am I gonna have to order everything online forever? Is that maybe going to be the best closest thing I get to trying something on, is putting it on my digital avatar and then getting shipped a physical copy? So yeah, that was a really cool kind of rabbit hole to go down, and kind of, you know, it was interesting to kind of get the side conversation on the marketplaces in chat, as well as hearing like some of the bigger wigs like OpenSea's, you know,
the king of online asset trading right now, I'd say. About NFT trading, at least they have the best. They said it themselves. They have the best. They have the best methods to sell NFTs. So why does composability matter? The big migration. This was Dieter Shirley. So he's the chief architect of Cadence. So he built the language behind Flow, and that powers the blockchain. And he was the architect of the blockchain. And so he basically gave us a really nice kind of start to finish overhaul of how it was built and why it was built that way. One of my favorite kind of points of that explanation was when he went into the account structure on Flow and why it's different and special from Ethereum. And it really comes down to ownership of your assets. So Flow, by using resources and their own account and storage model, instead of on Ethereum where you have an NFT and it lives, that NFT never leaves the contract that it was created in. So if somebody mints a bunch of NFTs from their smart contract, those NFTs, they never leave. That data never leaves the contract. It's not stored in your account. It always lives in that smart contract account. It's just assigned to you in a ledger. So when it's traded, that ledger just updates your account info to somebody else's, and boom, it's gone. So at the end of the day, it's not bad, but the architecture doesn't really match what's actually happening. And I think for developers and for users, I think it's important, or at least it makes life easier if the thing that you're building, in some or most ways resembles the concept behind it. So the fact that Flow and Cadence are using resources, and these things are special in a way that an object can only exist in one location at a time. So they have to then be handled differently, and they have to be moved around and destroyed if they're not being used anymore. So using these resources means that when I send you my Flow CryptoKitty, I'm actually taking it out of storage of my Flow account and sending it to you, and where it is then being saved into the storage in your account. That is fundamentally hugely different, right? And I mean, it kind of then, if you think about it, it fractions things out nicely in terms of how the network interacts with things. There's not this traffic jam going on over this one contract where everything's trying to figure out, it's trying to interact with this one ledger, and it's trying to move things around, and everybody's trying to interact with it at the same time. Things are split up nicely. It's segmented in a way where okay, this guy wants to move something out of his account and into this person's account. Well, let's go just send that transaction to these nodes and they can take care of it. It's very nicely distributed, right? It's decentralized. So I think that's really cool, and just kind of having it explained from Dieter was really nice, because it really clarified it for me and the differences between the two networks. And I think as more and more developers catch wind of that and understand why that's a good thing, and see how things move around on Flow, when Top Shot goes live, man, it's going to be exciting, because that's going to trigger this migration, and that's what's going to be what a developer that's created a set of assets and a contract on Ethereum, well, they go, well, how do I migrate these over to Flow? How do I build this or bridge this and get these assets off of this network and over to this network so we can leverage the features that my community is going to want to use? Because I think what people are going to find is in order to build a better experience for their users, they're going to need something a little better under the hood in a lot of cases. So, in where they're basically going to have a couple of choices. They can migrate to a layer 2 solution, I don't really know many of the pros and cons behind that. Or they could migrate to a solution that's built specifically for, well, not built specifically for their use case, but built by a team that's almost guaranteed encountered the difficulties that they will with a product like they're building. So that makes it a pretty easy call in my opinion, and I think we'll start seeing, like, again, it goes back to that concept of launching with users, right? Like launching with a user base and an active ecosystem and high quality applications. Like, if this kicks off in the way that it's expected to, especially with the partnerships that they have in place, you're gonna see a lot of developers go, hey, like, I want my thing over there. I want mine on the busy street beside all the other busy shops, because that's where all the traffic is, and location is still, you know, one of the biggest factors in successful business. Developers need to get paid, right? Like, I love doing this stuff, but it's, you know, I need to get paid to do it, and otherwise I'm gonna have to do stuff that I don't love doing as much in order to pay the bills, and ultimately end up with less time to do this, right? So the last session was really cool. This is where, like, a bunch of NFT developers and DeFi developers got together on one panel and kind of discussed how the two buckets are starting to come together. So you are seeing a lot of cool projects in the space. One of the growth fellow from Axie was there. So he made a really good point I'll touch on right away, which is like a good callback to the first session, just about players being able to earn a living doing what they love. Like, he thought it was just so cool to see people earning not only like Axie's love potion currency or their token, that, you know, then they could get their first experience with Uniswap, and then, you know, for a lot of early adopters, get airdropped a handsome amount of, or at least a handsome dollar amount of currency that then they could do what they want with, in regards to the Uni token. But, you know, like, even before all that, users were able to actually play this game and earn cryptocurrency through tournaments. They'd get paid out, you know, pieces of other projects, whether it was like gold or DAI. I think Kyber Network's in there as well. So, like, they get exposure to crypto through that organic gaming experience. And I am backpedaling over something that I mentioned earlier, but I just thought it was really a nice way to kind of like head into the end of the session by calling back that original concept of you know, empowering like this generation of gamers to discover this whole new section of tech organically, just from having positive experiences through gaming. And that, you know, Axie is doing a really good job of not only like creating an ecosystem that is really, like, I don't want to say addictive, it is, but it's there's a good reason for that addiction. Like, I think as long as you can still balance your life out and, you know, go outside once in a while, like, there is something to be said about, you know, playing a game that actually pays you for playing it. And, you know, like, there's a community building around this game where there's, you know, people making friends for life around this stuff, and you know, changing their lives around, pulling themselves out of some really uncomfortable financial situations right now where they otherwise wouldn't be able to go outside and make a living. It's giving people opportunities as content creators to, you know, completely make a living through things like YouTube. So you know, it's a really cool space, and it's really cool to see Axie kind of taking charge with what I think is a really good idea. And I think they're just getting started, right? Like, I just recently bought myself some land tokens. It was like the cheapest land you could buy, and I got in like just under, I think it was 0.1 ETH for land. And now I think the cheapest you can buy those land parcels for is 0.15 already. So, you know, like, not life-changing money for a couple of parcels of land, but like, considering I bought them a few weeks ago tops, like, that's already a pretty good return on investment for buying digital land in a video game. if you ask me. So yeah, really cool. I think they're just getting started. They haven't really even released their land play or anything like that yet. So I think like you're just seeing kind of the tip of the iceberg in terms of like what Axie's doing to not only like promote their space and enrich their environment, but also integrate with other projects and kind of raise awareness for the entire community. So the metaverse came up here. Like again, is another big recurring topic. Like it's one of those things that's more of an idea than a reality right now, because most developers are trying to figure out what this actually is and how to do it properly. And like as a developer myself, like there are some pretty challenging problems to solve, like because in a lot of ways with this metaverse we need to find a way to kind of hook into things that we're not even sure exist, or at least we're trying to build functionality before we know what we're trying to build it for. And we're also trying to do that on the blockchain, which once things are up there, they technically shouldn't be able to be changed, right? So there's a whole new set of problems that we need to kind of play limbo around in order to make this happen. But we're gonna make it happen. Like that's the cool part, right? And there's a lot of really smart minds around it, like a lot of much smarter people than myself that are trying to solve this exact problem right now. So it's really exciting to hear this metaverse being talked about, and again, it all just comes back to the fact that like when you buy your hockey cards from my game, when you get players from my game, or you draft a player, like that player is not set to be a hockey player for life. Like that player can go into other environments. That player can go, complete like a dungeon quest or a dungeon raid with like 3 other players from a completely other game and get experience that a normal hockey player would never get. So, and that's just that's one facet of what the metaverse could be, right? You start injecting ideas like DeFi into that space and where we could go with that. Things get pretty exciting, and at the end of the day, it just makes me want to watch more conferences and yak with more developers and just kind of find out what other people are building and try to kind of hack on that. Yeah, and I mean, like, to kind of cap it all off, going back to kind of that thought about like blockchain empowering people to make a living doing what they're most passionate about. Like, personally, I want to do this for a living. Like, I don't want to have to go do something that's, I don't want to say sucks, but like, I don't want to have to do something that I'm constantly, trying to focus on when my mind and my heart want to be doing something else. I realize that's the world's smallest violin, but at the same time, like, if you have an opportunity to shape your life up to do something that you're passionate about, and that that gets you out of bed every morning and makes you excited, and nobody's forcing you to do, take it, right? Like, find a way to make that opportunity work. So I think just like I don't see a good reason to have to go do something with a programming background that I wouldn't want to do just to put food on the table. I don't think there's a reason like a really high-end gamer, a high-level gamer, should have to put the game down in order to go do something else to pay their bills. And ultimately, I think it's nice to see people rewarded for doing something that they like. Like it's something that makes you feel good at the end of the day. And to really accelerate or to expand on that, the communities that are being created in this industry are unreal. Like, they're so supportive. You have people that are just happy to see people doing their thing and support that and help promote. It actually reminds me of a way more wholesome version of kind of like the underground hip-hop industry around here when I was a part of it. Like, what got me into this all the way back when was starting like a unfortunately unsuccessful website to help hip-hop artists get their name out there, and various relevant artists in the space. And I kind of had to learn about economics and finding the right market, because
unfortunately, underground hip hop artists don't have a lot of capital. So the business idea failed, but like it was another community that I really fell in love with because like you get some people that are just shilling to pump their bags just like you do here, but every few artists you come across, you find somebody really special with a really interesting perspective, and you get into some groups that are really just about kind of spreading the love and sharing other developers or other rappers with other people, and really just kind of collaborating and working together. And I see a lot of the same roots in this space too. So again, it is very nice to see people getting rewarded for what they love. So yeah, I mean that about sums it up. I was gonna think about kind of recapping some of the Go Play, or I'm gonna confuse that a lot, the Flow Playground tutorial lessons that I just wrapped up this week. I've put the link in the video description. Jules, if you're still kicking around, I would love some feedback on those videos, and maybe just leave a comment if you go through one of them and let me know if there's maybe something that I didn't explain well enough, or that you'd like me to kind of elaborate on, or just if you have any questions in general. It'd be nice to know what to expand on so that I'm not just sitting here blabbing at a screen for no reason. So I've been going for I'm going for about an hour and a half now, and I mean I think I've wrapped it up for the day as well as I possibly can. I have linked like the Open World Summit session, the YouTube stream, so that's the full one. If you go to the Flow Twitter, also linked in the description, you can like view the sessions individually, which will probably be a little faster to navigate. But yeah, go through these, check them out because these are really inspiring. I'm probably gonna go through like each session a few more times myself, take some notes, and maybe yak with a few of the speakers about their concepts, because there was a lot of stuff that I can apply directly to either building a product or building a community around that product, where both are very important. And the community in a lot of cases is the product, right? Well, no, I guess I shouldn't say that, but in a lot of cases the community like is super important, and that's really what you want to put all your effort into, right? Because the community is what's gonna kind of pull your brand on and wear it like a jersey, and your community is gonna do a lot of the selling for you, and share, especially in the game sense, share a good experience with their family and friends. So yeah, I don't really know what I'm gonna get up to for the next stream. We'll figure that out when we get there. I really should start working on the hockey game. I think I'll probably start hammering out those contracts, so that might be what we get into for a bit next week. I've been talking about it for a year now, a year plus, so it feels like it's about time to get on it. And then coming up to, we'll probably have a stream where we just check out some other projects in the space. Like it was really fun checking out Foot Battle on stream today. Still want to figure out what happened with the regular season. I want to know if my team plays. Yeah. Maybe we're just in. I don't know. I'm curious now. We're gonna nerd out through this a little bit before I go. When was the last game I played before today? Okay. Can you replay these stuff? That would have been cool. Yeah. Alright, I don't know what's happening with those leagues, but at least when I first started playing this game, they had it set up so that like your team just gets dropped into like a a ranked season or whatever. So like you just play with like a semi, like, because you do pick a region, right? So teams from Canada all play in like a North American league. So I think Canada and the US and maybe Mexico are in the same regular season. But it was really cool because you'd automated, like, your team would automatically play games on the side. So that's definitely something that I want to bring into my game. Like I want your team to be growing with or without you playing, but I want the decisions that you make, if you choose to manage your team, to have a positive impact or a negative impact. But I want there to be an opportunity for you to actually play. And I think like another concept that I thought would be really cool is with Axie, they're I don't want to like accidentally open something that I shouldn't, but I think like what's really cool with Axie is like they have these cards, and like that really kind of brings me back to like Magic, like where your Axies, they have stats, but they also have 4 cards, and those cards give them an ability that you can play during a scrap or whatever. So I think it would be really cool to have kind of like a semi-passive thing where you can, your players or your team or whatever in my game, in my hockey game, have their own cards as well, and you can kind of arrange those cards to play in an order. So like once the game starts, or maybe once like a period starts or something like that, your cards are locked in that are in that slot or whatever. So you can't make any changes to what cards will be played that period after that point. But even having like that like little bit of adjustment and a little bit of impact on the game, like your cards would either buff or you know, nerf something on the other team or your team during that period, or maybe like, you know, you'd have like a special like enforcer card or something like that, where you have like some big badass player on your team that makes all the top players on the other team scared for your period. So, you know, maybe a team that normally would have scored 2 goals that period doesn't score any, and you score 1, and it changes the outcome of the game. So I mean, there's so many cool ways that you can really tinker with just the mechanics of a game like hockey, and add some unique and fun aspects to it, right? And like, you know, I'm again just kind of just scratching or throwing out some really early ideas that I've had with the game. These aren't really a lot of things that I even cooked up over the last couple of weeks, so I'm really pumped to build it. I just want to start seeing what you can do with it. And Alan, if you ever watch this, I want to talk to you about game design and systems design, because I need to pick your brain about this one, and I know you're a hockey guy, at least a little bit. So but anyway, yeah, that's that. We'll figure out we'll either start coding up some of the hockey game, maybe start writing out like the player contract. I want to build as much as that game on chain as possible. Like, why not, right? Like we did it with your project, Julian. We're gonna do it with mine too. We'll just grind it out as hard as we can on chain and see what happens. And then I think we'll spend a bit of the stream either maybe playing a bit of like a few games, and you know, I'd love to get some shout outs and some shills in terms of what everybody else's favorite at least Ethereum and potentially Flow blockchain games are. I'm not that crazy on jumping around chains right now. Like, gas fees are terrible, but there aren't a lot of other chains that I'm really that interested in playing games on, if I'm being honest. And if you really think you have the experience that's going to change my mind about that, I welcome a link in the comments. But yeah, that'll be it. I think I'm ready for bed almost. It's been a long day of being inspired and trying not to fall asleep after the energy rush that comes with it. So thanks for hanging out. Good to see you, Jules. Glad we could line up a stream where you were on it with me. And well, Jules, in your case, hopefully I'll see you on Sunday for a little bit of gaming. Otherwise, I'm sure we'll touch base before then.
Anyway, I will possibly see you on the weekend for another stream. Otherwise, we'll definitely have one on Tuesday, and I'll figure my life out. I'll probably write some code. Like I said, we'll probably code a bit of that hockey game up. Till then, have a great weekend. I'll see you next time.